was the one that ingested a bird strike, that should have been turned off potentially. Why is the other engine not off? Now, it's really easy in the heat of the moment to mix that up and to potentially turn off the good engine while you have the other engine flame out. That has happened before in previous aviation disasters, and it can definitely play a role here. But from the pilot and aircraft perspective, the entire diverting operation was so short, it was just such a condensed timeline that there was not enough time to take every action that you could. Now, why that would be the case is hard to say. The data will tell us. Maybe there was something catastrophically wrong with the airplane to the point where they had to do that. Or maybe it was just a rush decision. Also, bird strikes can introduce smoke into the cockpit, depending on which engine you shoot. Normally, the cabin pressurization happens with bleed air coming in from outside, but there's a chance that you could potentially get smoke inhalation into the cockpit. Now, there's a famous joke, everyone's a fighter until you get punched in the face, meaning, it's easy to sit back and think about what a pilot should have done. It's really hard when there's smoke in the cockpit to stay level-headed, to put on a mask, and to continue with the entire operation of running an airplane. Now, to get a first-hand perspective from a pilot, I interviewed my friend Phil, who is a commercial aviation pilot, who's been flying for about 20 years, to get his take.
When any pilot has any sort of emergency situation, right, it's the unexpected. The unexpected just occurs. With that being the case, there's that startle factor immediately, right? And it takes the brain a little bit of time to figure out what just happened, right? So nothing's instantaneous, even in our reactions, even those for certain things like engine failures and whatnot, we may have memory items, right? But it still takes us a little bit of time for this to process in our head what just happened. So there's that aspect of this, right? We talked about smoke and fumes. Yeah, when you ingest birds, there's a possibility that you can get smoke and fumes of some sort in the flight deck, in the airplane itself. For us on the flight deck, that means we got to don our oxygen mask. So that's a time-consuming process, so to speak, right? It's not a very comfortable process either, right? Because now you're taking your headset off. If you have your headset on, you're donning your oxygen mask and you're putting your headset back on top of that. So that does take some time there. And now you're breathing through. It's a full-face mask. It's not just over your nose, it's over your eyes as well. So that's definitely, unnerving, it's uncomfortable, and it's not something we operate with on a daily basis. It's the abnormal. So you put all these variables together, it can get very busy on the flight deck, right? And that's when it basically turns to the pilot's experience level to go, hey, the situation that I'm in, do I have time to deal with this in the air, or is this a no-time event? I gotta get this airplane on the ground immediately, right? Obviously, we want the timed events. We want events where we can buy that time. We can go into like a holding pattern, like you said, to run the checklist that we need to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's before we come back in and try to do this emergency landing. Versus there's some situations where we don't have time. We gotta get the airplane back on the ground immediately, right? So in their situation, again, I don't know what they faced. They elected to go around after the bird strike, which is totally fine. And between the time they went around and they came back in, it was a very short period of time. So clearly, once they went around, they realized they didn't have enough time, I guess, and they brought it back in. And that's the unknown right now. We don't know what was actually taking place on that flight deck, right? Was there smoke and fumes in there? Did they don the masks? Did they have, a bunch of master warning lights go off because they did sever a line somewhere? For the engine failure itself, there's going to be cautions and warnings that are blaring out at you. That itself is a distractor. Going through the checklist, which checklist they went through first. A lot of unknowns right now. So I would say that we're trained for it. We're very well trained for it, but we're not trained for every single scenario that could encounter, right? That we could encounter. We're trained for the big ones like an engine failure or, a hydraulic system failure. But when it's multiple failures at once or things that we're not used to, you kind of have to step through this piece by piece. And what their progression was is kind of the unknown right now, right? Because they came back around as quick as they could and put it back on the ground.
In aviation, there's a concept of pilot workload. Back in the days before all this modern digitization, we had a flight engineer. There was 3 people in the cockpit. There was the pilot, first the FO, then a flight engineer. The flight engineer's job was to look at all the different conditions, to set all these different parameters that are now kind of fully automated. We don't need that role. But in the case of an emergency, you can see there's still a lot of pilot workload. And that's where mistakes can potentially happen. That's what happened. We don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. But I'm a firm believer that computers don't need to breathe. They can't get passed out from smoke inhalation, and they are much more quick to react. So if we can program these computers to take care of more actions in the event of some sort of a SOS situation, a mayday, the landing gear should just automatically deploy. There should be no reason for having to wait. If the airspeed conditions are right, deploy landing gear, right? Deploy flaps, handle all that stuff. That way the pilot doesn't have to fly, maneuver, and do that. And if you look at that flight path that we showed, tell me where you would have any time as a pilot to take care of all this stuff. I mean, you were just trying to take a plane that potentially had a flame out or a compressor stall and trying to just get back on path to land again. There's no time here to take any further action. And it's a real tragedy. Obviously, we're going to learn more. The black box, the flight data recorders have all been collected. That airport, Modern International, is shut down. It's been shut down since that event. And I think there's going to be a lot that comes from this. But to summarize, I think it comes down to this. From the airport perspective, I don't think we can have any kind of embankments that would just completely bring aircraft to a stop instantaneously. We can't have that. If we need to lift our localizers for air traffic control purposes and for communication with aircraft, we have to do
just
that with,
nothing.
With metal bars that can bend and collapse and break and not need concrete reinforced embankments. The second thing is we can deploy things like EMAS, right, to even further add safety, where if you go overshoot the runway, you come across some sort of a mechanism built and designed to brake and to increase the friction. Now, even though this plane didn't have landing gear down, the nacelles of the engine and the back of the plane would have crushed these tiles potentially and enjoy some of the same benefits as the landing gear would have. So from an airport perspective, bird mitigation, airport runway designations, if you're doing active construction on a runway, maybe we have to take even further measures to make sure that everything is safe, checking all embankments and any obstructions in the path of the overshoot sections of runways, and finally deploying even higher tech safety measures to bring aircraft to a stop in the event that this happens. Because this does happen, and sometimes it happens without much incident. No one dies, it's just that the plane couldn't stop on time. And then, of course, from the aircraft side and the operational side, further safety and training and all that comes from what we find. As an aerospace engineer, these stories are hard to tell because these are heartbreaking. I mean, that's a lot of loss of life. It's just one of the biggest tragedies that we've had in quite some time. But the reality of engineering is a lot of what we learn happens after tragedy. A lot of the aviation, especially the regulations, how we do flight operations, aircraft control management, it all comes from different times when things went wrong, and we learn from them. And we take that really seriously in engineering. And that's why we can't just put our heads in the sand and not talk about the bad stuff too. I know I talk about mostly about all the optimistic stuff, but this story is just hard. And my thoughts and prayers are with the families that are affected and everybody. It's a tough thing to go through. And in the coming weeks, we'll know more about what actually happened. And I'm sure that we will have long-standing higher safety regulations or ideas. And
he pretty much stops there. Seafood. Once again. was going at his tail a little bit too aggressive. Like, what's going on here? Can you hear it? Hmm. Oh, let me reset this real quick. Do we have sound? Nope. Good. Now I gotta figure out why there's no. This isn't working, period. Going on here. I gotta sneeze. All right. Hmm. Do this again then. Huh. Very weird. I don't know why, like, the audio is not being picked up. It makes sense to me. Makes no sense at all. Like, at all, at all, at all, at all, at all. Whoa, holy shit. Hmm. How do I figure this one out? Hmm. Alright. I'm gonna restart one more time. If it don't work, then I'm gonna play some of the card game. Because I don't understand what's going on. Wow, this is nuts. Why is this not working the way it should be working? This is nuts. It just doesn't want to capture the audio no matter what I do. Hmm. Alright, looks like we're doing the card game. Unless this magically works somehow when I hit this button. Do that. And then I can turn the desktop audio. I don't know what.
Get lost. I warned you, asshole.
I forgot how the gate. And it. Our actions are on point. Nice. One shot, easy win.
What do you do?
Hey, how'd you get in here?
Not so tough after all.
You notice the audio just like kicked out? What the? Yeah, it did.
Open it. Open up.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Check. Drop your weapon.
He said drop.
Last bag's on his way. Insane. You can't keep up. Shit, he's armed. Freaking way.
Nerves get the better of you.
Holy shit!
Okay, go. Far so good.
Came to the wrong place, pal.
Shame.
Oh, shit.
Big dude.
Shit.
I'm hitting buttons and nothing's happening. What just happened?
Too late to back out now.
Oh, it just fucking ended me.
You've got determination. I'll give you that. the floor.
Fire!
Time is up now.
So far, so good. Yeah, this way?
How the fuck you get in here?
I walked in.
Stop him for fuck's sake. Put that down.
Right where the keys are. Do I just get them automatically? Shit.
You're sure about that? Pony?
Hey, this is... Shit. I pity you. Oh, freaking way. Insane. Come at me.
Can't keep up.
Fuck, that hurt.
So tough after all.
I don't know why I thought I could block that. This is good though. These are like little deaths. It's not like amazing, but they're not bad. There's a little punk that I just died to. Damn.
Boss said nobody gets through. George.
I'll make. Oh man.
Too late to back out.
Shit. Fucked. Nice. New high level. Oops. I don't think I've ever been in there. No, nothing. Interesting. That swing underneath is rough. Oh, whoops. Nice. Alright. It'd be good if I can get out of this now.
I have spent 8 long years preparing for this.
1. Not the best, not the worst. Still in our 20s though. I can go to the museum right away. No. Interesting. Like a restart of the run, but I still have everything even. Makes me want to go get the key. Run.
Forget about it. If you're not on the list, you're not getting.
Private backup!